This week, we have been discussing the concept of infinity, positing that infinity is not a concept that is limited to math classrooms, but actually a real phenomena that we encounter in our daily lives. Then we went over some of the properties of infinity that may be surprising to us. The first of which being that there are different magnitudes of infinity. Some infinitely large sets of things are larger than other infinitely large sets of things. On Wednesday's video, we briefly went over how this was proven. We didn't use this language earlier in the week. There's a simple way to categorize magnitudes of infinity. One type of infinitely large set is known as countably infinite, meaning you could theoretically devise a way to count all of its elements. Of course, you would not want to sit there and actually count an infinite number of things. It would take a lot of time. But in theory, you could. Then there are uncountably infinite sets. This is an infinitely large set where you could not devise a way to count its elements. And these uncountably infinite sets are larger than countably infinite sets. Mathematicians have also devised clever ways to construct even larger infinite sets, but we will focus on the primary two distinctions: countable infinity and uncountable infinity. Another property of infinity we discussed this week were the unintuitive equalities of infinity. When you slice and take subsets of infinitely large things, they behave much differently than when you slice and take subsets of finitely large things. If you had a finite amount of something and you remove some of it, you would end up with less than when you started, a statement which is obvious. But if you had an infinite set of something, it is entirely possible that a subset of it, a slice of it, is just as large as the whole thing that you started with. Now, I want to shift the discussion to our daily lives, our spirituality, particularly when we encounter the infinite. The realm of feelings and emotions is hard to navigate, and a common goal among spiritual practices across the world is to help us better understand ourselves. Another common goal among spiritual practices is to help us understand our relationship with an abstract entity, a higher power, the universe or the cosmic consciousness or God, or however we see fit to define some sort of abstract entity. It would be appropriate to define this abstract higher power as infinite. It is possible that there is a spiritual or faith practice concerned with strictly finite entities, but I'm not familiar with any. Many spiritual traditions also define us, the self, as a part of a higher abstract entity, which is infinite. And as a part of or a subset of this higher power, our spiritual selves are also infinite. In some sense lesser, but in some sense infinite. This idea that I've been advocating for this week, that infinity is real and understanding infinity can help us in our daily lives, circles around one particular question. What is the difference between spiritual practice, spiritual work, and other types of practices or work? Many goals that we can work on and achieve follow a simple intuitive logic, a logic that follows the mathematics of finite entities. If I output less calories than I consume, I will lose weight. If I practice an instrument every day, then I can expect to improve at this instrument in a linear sort of fashion. And this holds true for many things in life. But I think that spiritual practice and spiritual work often betray these principles. Someone who has read 1,000 self-help books may not have as much peace of mind as someone who has never read any. Someone who goes to church every day may not feel as strong a connection to their higher power as someone who only goes once a year. And this is because the logic, the mathematics that underlie spiritual practices, has to do with infinite values. And the mathematics of infinites, as we have discussed this week, can produce unintuitive and weird results. You can meditate for 1 hour a week and then decide to start meditating for 40 hours a week. And it is entirely possible that after this big increase in time spent, you feel no different at all. In the same way that you can add something to an infinitely large set, and yet its magnitude will remain the same. This expectation that spiritual growth and change will operate in the same fashion as other pursuits in our lives can be frustrating. You cannot make more joy in your life The same way that you can make more money. You can try to add dollars to your bank account, but your spiritual self is infinite. So why would you try to add something to a set that already contains an infinite amount in it? The mathematics of adding something to an infinite value is relatively uninteresting. A more interesting question is to try and understand what is already there. And this mathematical lens holds true for the infinite things we encounter in our lives. We cannot expect to manipulate our spiritual selves by adding things or taking away. The only way we can enrich our spirituality is trying to understand that which is already there. All right, that's wrapping up for this week. I hope everyone has a great weekend ahead of them.